Hey guys, welcome back. So today we are going to talk about some simple data manipulation in Excel. Super simple, nothing crazy, no formulas. We are just going to take some data, manipulate it, transform it, aggregate it to get some really cool things out. And then from there, in the second part of this video, we are going to take those and put them into Flourish, and we're going to create some really cool graphics out of it. So the first thing we're going to do is I've got this data set up here. So this is the wage and labor violations data set that we have. And so you can see that this is a ton of data. And so no one is ever going to want to look at this in any way, shape, or form. So I need to do some things and I need to adjust this in some way, shape, or form so that I can actually get some things out of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pivot table. Pivot tables are your best friend when it comes to manipulating data and for transposing it. So under the insert tab, it's at the top here. If I hit this, it's going to say, what data do you want to use? In this case, I'm going to use this whole table. I'm going to create a new worksheet off of it, and it's going to add that in. And now this has a lot of data in it, so it's going to take a little bit of time to actually do that, and my computer's going to have just a little bit of an aneurysm in getting us there. Okay, so now we can see that there's a pivot table that has come up, and now we have all of our nice columns down at the side. So in this particular case, one of the things we're going to want to do, or the one things we are going to do in this case, is we're going to create a graphic that is going to have the relative amounts of violations that have occurred in each state and by industry. And so instead of having all of these different individual ones, right, we have 335,000 of them. So this isn't going to provide us a good data set. So instead, what we want to do is we want to go and we want to do state. And so we can add the state. Now automatically it's going to put this in the rows category. And in this case, that's fine. We've got all the different rows that are in here, totally fine. And it's doing it by alphabetical order. And then we're going to go down, and in this case, our industry code is what's called the NAICS. And in this case, there's a 6-digit one, but the 6-digit one goes all the way to six different digits. So if we add that, all of a sudden you see that this goes down basically to 38,000. So this is still way too much. I don't want that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the NAICS 2 code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that over into the columns. Now you can see that we've got a couple of different things here, right? We only have about 20 to 30 of those. We've got 9, 11, 21, 22, yada, 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 yada. Now I could drop this down further into an NAICS1 code. These are basically sector codes, but in this case, I'm going to keep it like this, and we're going to see how this goes. And so then the next thing we need to do is we need to find where these values are. And so in this case, these values, I know that these values are by the different types of violations. And so that's why there's so many of them. So these are the different things. So this is like the H-1B visa and how many violations were of that. But in this case, I just want total violations. And so these are the number of violations. Case violation count. This is the amount of compensation that was assessed. These were the employees who were impacted, and these were the back wages that were agreed to be paid. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to aggregate these by the case violation count. Now, you'll see that this is automatically coming up under the value section of this. And with this value section, in this case, I want the sum. And so it automatically did that. But if you don't want the sum, so maybe you just wanted who had the average amount of violations, you could do that. You could have a count of the unique values. You could do some sort of product with it. You could do some sort of formula with it if you wanted to. In this case, we're just going to use the sum value though, and that's what we're going to do. So now you can see that there's a variety of different things over here. So we've got all of these different values, the total values, and we have all the different states down here. So these are the things I'm going to use. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to copy these. I'm not taking the ones that don't have a state labeled to them. I'm just going to put these in a new sheet with that. Now, one of the things I'm going to want to do in this case is I'm going to change these to the state, and then I'm going to change all of these headers to what they're actually called, so that when I add them into Flourish, that's what they're going to be labeled as. So I'm going to pause this video and do that, and I will see you back here in a sec when that's done. Okay, so now we can see that we have all of these different ones. Now you can see that I didn't format all of them the same. Some of them I typed in, some of them I copied and pasted from a website. Totally fine. Now the other thing you'll notice is that I added in this region column. This is showing what region of the US each of these states are in. So this is going to be the first one that we do. Now we're going to go back and we're going to do another pivot table. And we're going to keep the sum of the violation count the same, but instead of doing this by industry, what we're actually going to do is we want the violations by state by year. And so we're going to go back and we're going to find, in this case, the end date of the cases. These are when the cases were last done, and those ones are going to be the findings end date. Those ones are going to be the thing that we want in this particular case. Now, because it's an end date, one of the things you'll find is that we have years, quarters, and then we also have months and the total finding. So I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to remove all of these fields except for the year, because I want to aggregate this by year. And then I'm going to pull this over and into the columns one. So if I go back up to the top here, what we'll see is that now I have all of my violations by year. And so that's what I want to do in this particular case, okay? And so now we are going to go through and we're going to copy these guys over and we're going to do this. Now, in this case, what I actually want is I'm going to go back and do this again, but I'm only going to, at this point, I'm going to do all of it, but there's a reason why I'm going to do all of it, including that total sum. Because then what I want to do is, in this case, I'm only going to want to take the top 3 states in the map that I'm going to, or in the graph that I'm going to create. So I'm going to delete this 3021, and then I'm going to go to grand total, and I'm going to go over to data, and I'm going to sort this data from highest to lowest. So you can sort this by different columns. In this case, I have this one column selected, and I did the inverted sorting, so I sorted it descending. So if I go back over here, my top 3 states are Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. So these 3 are going to be the ones that I eventually end up taking. Now, I'll clean these up in Flourish as well, but that is how you do data acquisition using your or data pivot tables using Excel to get 2 different data sets out that then we're going to put into Flourish in just a moment.